Is it a hex bug? Is it a hex bug? No. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another R review. Why did you think I went doo 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 doo? You just weren't listening. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another review. I'm your host, Purple Midnight 8, joined by my gracious co-host and my wife, Amelia. Why don't you say hello, Amelia?
Sorry, I'm not used to it.
Yeah, this is our first episode as a unofficial married couple, which is still very strange. It's Amelia's turn this week, of course. After last week where we covered, I've already forgot, Scary Movie 3. We're covering Scream, the original Scream. By the way, we're going to be eating chocolates throughout, so I do apologise. Everyone's seen Scream, it's a classic. We may as well have covered it with the original Scary Movie, but we thought we'd cover the original. I'm going to eat a bit of chocolate. Can you feel the
Some ASMR chocolate eating for you.
disgusting? Anyway, so of course Scream, the classic horror film, the classic meta horror film. Everyone's seen it. If you haven't seen it, what the hell are you doing with your life? There's 5 sequels to this as of recording. Probably going to be a 7th one.
6.
Scream. So Scream 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5.
Oh, right.
I said there's 5 sequels. 6 films.
Okay.
Anyway, we will cover them further down the line. We'll cover 6 later because we've only just seen it. Even though it's been out for months, we missed our opportunity in the cinema. So we'll get right into it. It's directed by Wes Craven, of course, famous for this, Nightmare on Elm Street, and a bunch of other little bits and bobs. Nightmare on Elm Street we'll talk about a bit later on because there's a bit more. Spoilers throughout, by the way, but get that out of the way. Of course, as I say, Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that good stuff. Very, very big horror aficionado sort of director. Written by Kevin Williamson. I can't remember what he's did. I speak good English. Let me have a look. Kevin's got a very square chin. I know him from other things. He wrote Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, and Scream 6, just not Scream 5. He's also known for I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I'm sure we'll probably do at some point. So yeah, last little warning for spoilers because we'll now get into the film itself. Well, I will because Amelia's just colouring on her phone. She'll occasionally chime in. So yeah, Casey Becker, played by Drew Barrymore, of course. Very popular at the time actress, I should say. I don't really think she's as popular anymore. Known for Charlie's Angels, 51st Dates, E.T., Batman Forever, Family Guy. Oh, of course she's in Family Guy. She's Brian's dipshit girlfriend,
Oh my
the
god.
very ditzy, stupid blonde one.
Mhm.
Oh, I can't remember her name. Who does she play? Oh no, she voices the teacher that Chris wanted to bang. Oh, and Gillian, yeah, Gillian. I thought that was Gillian or Julia. I was thinking of. Anyway, enough about that. We'll not talk about Family Guy. She's home alone when she receives a phone call from a mysterious man. He is played by Roger Jackson. Only the voice.
Really hard.
Yeah, because we watched and reviewed Scary Movie before we did this, and because how it was very difficult not to take it seriously. Well, very difficult to take it seriously just because we'd seen the parody not recently, but more recent than this, and it was because of how iconic both films are. It's difficult to not compare them. So Jackson, he's the voice of Ghostface, the killer who reappears in every film. Of course, everyone knows the face. If you've somehow never heard of Scream, you know the killer's mask.
It was all over TikTok at one point because people were using the filter.
Mm. Basically, it's difficult to not have heard of Scream, and if you have not heard of it, what rock have you been living under? Excuse me. For the last, may I add, 27 years that this film's been out. That's as old as you.
Alright.
So yeah, he returns as the voice of Ghostface for each of the films in the franchise. And also, weirdly, in like the spin-offs, or like crossovers, which is good. At least they stuck with that. Like how in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, when they did that weird crossover with him. I think that was when the 5th one came out. And like they bought Ghostface in as an operator. And he is also voiced by Roger Jackson, so at least they stuck to their guns. Very funny. Anyway, enough about him. The two of them go into a discussion of scary movies, and the man says he wants to know who he's looking at. Everyone knows the "What's your favorite scary movie?" It's an iconic quote. The man repeatedly harasses her over the phone and threatens to kill her, and they play their game. She threatens to have her boyfriend beat him up, not beat her up. Jesus, what a threat. Oh, I was trying to type and then it just fucking closed the review. That's great. Her boyfriend Steve beat him up. However, the killer knows who he is and asks her to turn on the lights for the patio. Turning them on, she spots Steve, played by Kevin Patrick Walls. Don't know who that is, I apologise. Bound to a chair. The man says if she answers the questions correctly, Steve will live. She answers the first correctly, however, but she fails to correctly answer the second question correctly, costing Steve his life from being disemboweled. Yummy. Good opening kill. The question is, who is the killer on Friday the 13th? She incorrectly answers Jason. She's technically not wrong. However, the original killer is his mother, Pamela. There you go. I thought it was Patricia, but it's Pamela. I had to remember. I'm not an expert on Friday the 13th. So, Casey retreats inside as the killer makes his entrance off screen. Casey makes it back outside while he's like stalking around the house. Oh god, I've pressed stop on it. I'm trying to cancel something and it's failed. So yeah, Katie retreats outside. She makes it outside and runs for it as her parents are arriving home. Ghostface makes his presence known and catches up to her and stabs her multiple times. She does survive this temporarily, but he does end up hanging her body from a nearby tree for her parents to find.
Don't forget the phone. She's carrying the phone.
Well, she's carrying the phone for whatever reason. She's probably going to call the police, realistically. Anyway. Or her parents. So yeah, that's our little cold open kills. I remember... Well, I don't remember, because I wasn't alive, because I am a young boy. I'm a Zoomer. I remember hearing about the shock of it, because even on the poster for Scream, Drew Barrymore is on it, like prominent front and center. So when they killed her off basically straight away, that was a big shock, because it's like, oh, she's here to be like the main cast, and then she's killed off in the first like 10, 20 minutes. It's just like, oh my god. So yeah, anyway. That was a big shock back in the day. Sydney, played by Neve Campbell. She will return for every film except the newest one. So yeah, when we cover these, prepare to hear her name a lot. It's in her room that night doing computer stuff, because it's just like the old computer screen like the hackers would have, where it's just a black screen with writing on it. When her boyfriend Billy Loomis, played by Skeet Ulrich, he will be back on the channel a couple of times with the later films. arrives, surprising her. The two do some dry humping before Billy tries to go under the covers, which we will call it. He wanted some skin. Some skin. Which Sydney stops him from doing before sending him away. At Woodsboro High, the next day, several police and, of course, journalists, because they want the scoop, importantly Gail Weathers, played by Courtney Cox, are there investigating the deaths of Kate and Steve. Oh, excuse me. Sydney's friend Tatum, played by Rose McGowan, her. She's in, of course, Scream, if you couldn't guess. A bunch of stuff I weirdly haven't heard of. I thought I had heard of her in more stuff, but I have not. So, never mind. Sorry, I'm tired. So, Tatum meets her and gives her the rundown of what's gone less than 24 hours. Principal Hembry, played by a weirdly uncredited Henry Winkler. Obviously, Fonzie, another big thing from like the 70s, I think. Is interviewing students alongside Deputy Dewey, played by David Arquette, of course. He will be back for most of the films. And Sheriff Burke, played by Joseph Whipp. Sydney and Tatum meet with Tatum's boyfriend, Stu, played, of course, by recurring cast member of this channel, Matthew Lillard, back from Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2. I can't wait till we cover more of that as a minute. We are definitely covering Five Nights at Freddy's when that comes out later this year. So he'll be back again. Old man, fucking Matthew Lillard. Billy again and Randy, played by Jamie Kennedy, who discuss the killings. Sydney heads home to an empty house, as her father has gone away for the weekend. She packs her things to stay over at Tatum's due to the killer going around, because why the fuck would you stay alone? And from the news, we learn that Sydney's mother was murdered the year prior. We'll go back into that a bit later on once we hear some more information. That night, Sydney receives a call from Tatum saying she's on her way, and after hanging up, she hears the familiar voice of Ghostface on the other end. She thinks it's Randy and mocks him. Randy is fucking bullied in this film. Every time the killer appears, they're just like, "Oh, hey, Randy, what's up? This isn't cool. Stop being an asshole." Even though Randy's not even in this film that much, he like disappears for most of the second act. Like they just bully him, which is probably why they were doing it, to make you think, oh, it could be him. So yeah, she thinks it's Randy and mocks him for failing to scare her, but the man does not give his identity, as he is at that. She goes out to confront him, finding the outside porch empty. After she is threatened with murder, she panics and takes it seriously, retreating indoors where Ghostface attacks her. Sydney defends herself and runs into an upstairs room where she tries to call for help but finds no answer. And just as the killer escapes, Billy makes his appearance. Totally not suspicious. Sydney embraces him, but a phone drops from his pocket, causing Sydney to be understandably suspicious of him. Dewey is at the door with a ghost face mask, which is weird because she sort of opens the door and he's just holding the mask up as if to go, whoop. Oh, God. And he arrests Billy. Tatum also arrives, revealing she is Dewey's sister. Dewey is her brother. That's what I meant to say, I think. Gail arrives to try and film and ask questions with her cameraman Kenny, played by W. Earl Brown, who she has let's just say, a bit of a rough relationship with. She fucking just makes fun of him for being fat all the time. It's not very nice. She's a bit of a bully in this film. At the station, Dewey tells Sydney her dad never showed up at the airport as Billy and his father are interrogated by Burke. Gail arrives at the station to get the scoop on Sydney and Billy as Tatum arrives to pick up Sydney. There's a lot of names. I realise that I've typed everyone's names about 100 times. Gail gets the jump on him at the back exit where Sydney punches her after she makes him a remark. At Dewey and Tatum's house, they receive yet another call from Ghostface, which shocks them to find out it's not Billy, because he's in jail, or at least in holding. And the killer hangs up before Dewey can help. I don't know what he was going to do, but at least he didn't come out with a vacuum and a big stiffy. On the TV, we see the man found guilty of murdering Sydney's mother, Cotton Weary, played by Liev Schreiber, famous for, well, most famous for this, and also, what's it called? Logan. He played the clone of Logan, or whatever it is. Weirdly, I haven't seen Logan. He's known for Manchurian Candidate, he's known for Scream 2, which is why I bothered to mention him, because otherwise I would have just not bothered. Because if he wasn't... Oh, and a little bit of Scream 3. They see him being convicted. At school, Sydney speaks with Gail off the record about Cotton's case and implies that Sydney's father was responsible. There's a lot of setting up her father as a red herring, which is an obvious... Well, someone who's there to act suspicious, but ends up not being responsible. I forgot to say that Liev Schreiber is also the brother of Pablo Schreiber, who recently-ish did the Halo TV series, which is fucking garbage. So, there you go. So back at school, Sydney bumps into Billy, who has been released due to being cleared of not calling her at the house. He tells her the relationship has not been the same since her mother died, and that she should move on. What a lovely thing to say. So she does this awkward run that they make fun of in Scary Movie to the toilets. And Sydney overhears some other students who are in denial of her story. She hides in a cubicle and overhears them making fun of her mother. The two leave and Sydney exits the cubicle, but is attacked once more by Ghostface, who she narrowly escapes from. So, an important thing that gives away who the killers are. So once again, if I did warn you at the start, it turns out to be Stu and Billy. But you see a pair of boots step off one of the toilets, and back at the fountain scene where we first met Stu and Billy, they are wearing those boots. And there's a lot of looks they give one another that give away they're the murderers. So yeah, she gets attacked by whoever it is at the time, but she manages to escape, because of course. Gail meets outside with Dewey, who flirts with him to have him give her information, but later on they do fall in love. I think at the time, David Arquette and Courtney Cox were actually, I don't know if they were married or just dating. I cannot remember. I do not know the lore of David Arquette and Courtney Cox. No, they got married 3 years after this, which is fucking. So yeah, this was sort of their little. It's weird seeing it after you find out that they were actually together. They're not anymore, unfortunately, but hey ho, life goes on. Himbry suspends all classes and announces a citywide curfew. Stu invites Tatum and Sydney to a party at his, while Himbry is in his office after hours, where he is disturbed. He opens the door to find a janitor, whose name's Fred, played in a quick little cameo by Wes Craven. He was dressed up in order to resemble one Mr. Freddy Krueger. He's got the stripy jumper, he's got the fedora, and of course, I fucking love that cameo, it's so silly. Going back inside, he is promptly ambushed and killed by Ghostface, who stabs him multiple times. But we do find out later he did hang him from the flagpole, which is interesting, because that's how they managed to get the rest of the party guests out of the house. We don't see it, unfortunately, but, you know, that's just an important detail I want to add there, because stabbing is pretty simple. I don't know why they killed the principal, though. I don't see why they bothered. At the movie store, Stu meets with Randy, who tells him that everybody is suspecting a murder case according to movie rules. Randy is your typical movie geek. It helps for the meta sort of jokes about how, like, It's almost as if they know they're in a film, but they're not. They have knowledge of films outside of, and that does get recycled a lot in the later movies. So the town shuts down for that night's curfew as Dewey heads to the police station where Burke tells him the calls came from Sydney's father's phone. The girls head to Stu's party alongside Gail and Kenny. Dewey speaks with Gail and the two of them head to the party to investigate, leaving behind. Gail and Dewey enter the party as Tatum heads to the garage to get more alcohol. She finds some, however the door closes behind her before she is scared by a cat. She tries to find the door, Tries to find the door? No. That's not how that works. I've misread that and now I can't find it. She tries the door, finding it locked as the light goes out. The killer appears and she believes it's simply a game, once again being played by Randy. The killer slashes her arm as she flees, trying to escape for a fucking cat flap in the garage door.
She could have a fit though, because
She
she's
might.
not that big.
She might, but it's impractical. That's why in Scary Movie they have the fat woman try and do it and barely, doesn't get through it at all. The killer then raises the door with her still inside the cat flap and crushes her head into the frame before they return to the party. Ghostface, not Ghostface and Tatum's half mangled corpse. Most of the guests leave as Billy arrives on the scene suspiciously alongside Randy. Kenny in the van watches the camera feed because I forgot to mention, but Gail snuck a hidden camera in as Gail gets back to the van. Billy and Sydney speak alone upstairs in the house about their relationship before they start making out. However, they do decide they finally want to have sex for the first time. Randy, alongside the remaining guests, watch the death of Bob in the original Halloween. We're not counting him as a death in this film. We will count him when we get to the Halloween films at some point. Sorry, I just keep fucking tapping the page. Page down is going to be on my t-shirt. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, fucking hell. So yeah, Randy alongside the rest of the guests watch the death of Bob in the original Halloween before he pauses it to explain the rules of horror movies. Kenny and Gail are watching the feed before Dewey interrupts to pull Gail away to investigate a hidden car. Once again, leaving Kenny on his own. Kenny stays behind to watch the show while more of the unnamed guests leave. I think the rest of the useless no-name characters go. Randy answers the phone with Jamie Lee Curtis making a cameo on screen. I have to mention that because, of course, we've covered Halloween Ends.
It's
Absolute
weird
garbage.
a film, watching a film.
Yeah, and he's talking about horror films. So yeah, because Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, has been on the channel already, I had to put a little shout out to her for being in this film, whether or not she wanted to. He is informed of Himbry's death, which he announces to the last of the unnamed guests who leave to see the body. Kenny panics when he sees everybody leaves and hides in a van, while Gail and Dewey continue to walk up the road, just hit by the guests speeding away. The two kiss one another while in the bushes, but more importantly, they find Sydney's dad's car, causing them to rush back to the house. Billy is ambushed in the house by Ghostface after he and Sydney finish up, where he is stabbed multiple times. Sydney runs away from Ghostface, manages to hide in the attic, where she escapes through the window before Ghostface throws her press page down. This keyboard is too small. But Ghostface throws her onto a conveniently parked boat below her. Not in the water, like on the back of a trailer. Randy, who is very drunk, continues to speak to Jamie Lee Curtis on the TV screen while Ghostface appears behind him, before being alerted by Sydney screaming and running to Kenny's van. He's literally going, "Look behind you, Jamie," because of course Randy's actor's name is Jamie Kennedy, so it's very very funny. So yeah, Sydney manages to make it to Kenny, who's in the van, and Kenny emerges from the van and has his throat slit by Ghostface before Sydney can shut the door to save him. She manages to escape through a small gap leading to the van's rear door as Gail and Dewey return to the scene. Other lad, Kenny is dead. Like, he's not going to crawl back to life somehow. Dewey enters the house while Gail runs to the van and finds Kenny's blood and beats Randy with a phone when he attempts to see what's going on. Poor Randy is fucking clueless, and then he just runs to the van to see what's happening, and Gail just bashes him in the face with a phone. Yeah, that was fucking random, poor guy. He's completely oblivious of most of the people who are dead in this film. Gail attempts to drive away as Kenny's corpse, which was on the roof, slips off the roof, but crashes after swerving to avoid Sydney in the road. Dewey emerges from the front door with a knife in his back, courtesy of Ghostface. Get used to that. Dewey does get stabbed a lot in these films and ends the film in an ambulance, so... Sydney escapes into his police vehicle but can't drive away as Ghostface has the keys. She tries to keep the doors locked and responds to a radio but is ambushed by Ghostface who got him through the boot, or the trunk. Sydney grabs Dewey's gun from his passed out, presumed dead body on the porch. As Randy and Stu beg her for help but not trusting them, she shuts them out. Billy emerges from an upstairs room and falls down the stairs, and he takes the gun from her and opens the door for Randy, but he turns around and shoots Randy, revealing himself as the killer. This is our big reveal. We all go a little crazy. He basically did it because he was horny and had blue balls. That is basically his motivation, is because he didn't have sex. But also because his mother was a perceived slut. Her mother. Stu emerges from the kitchen holding the voice changer, revealing himself also as a killer. The two of them proceed to taunt Sydney and reveal they killed Sydney's mother for being a slut, as mentioned, and had an affair with Billy's mother. Don't know why Stu's involved. Stu just kills people for fun. Stu says he has a surprise for her and leaves, retrieving her father from another room. They explain that he is the chief suspect and that he is there to be framed for the murders that night. Billy and Stu stab each other to make them seem like the victims. And... what happened? They realise the gun's missing after Stu realises the gun's missing, now in the hands of Gail, who has recovered. Gail holds them at gunpoint but fails to shoot them because of their safety being on, and Billy kicks her, knocking her out just outside the front door. Stu returns, finding Sydney has escaped, and Billy answers the phone to her using the voice changer to taunt them. Billy throws the phone at Stu, who seems to regret his killings. He's like, my parents...
Did you say that when them two boys were fucking about, that he didn't mean to hit him with the phone?
Yeah, he genuinely didn't mean to hit him with a phone when he threw it at him.
Because it was like he was...
But because he ad-libbed the, you hit me with the phone, dick! Which is why I did it when we watched it. He genuinely didn't mean to hit him with it because he was covered in all the fake blood. It slipped out of his hand and he launched it at Matthew. He just went with it and just made the scene so much funnier. Billy, now gone full psycho, stalks around the house until Sydney stabs him with an umbrella, incapacitating him. Also, she didn't mean to she actually stabbed him with an umbrella. The first time, it was meant to hit in like a protective bit, but she stabbed him again and actually stabbed Skeet Ulrich in the chest with it, which is why he genuinely goes, ah! And falls. Stu rushes her and tackles her, however she manages to drop a TV on his head, seemingly killing him. I've only put seemingly killing him because I'm one of those that is somehow still alive. Until we see a body, I'm never fucking believing it. Because in the fifth film, they literally have
He said he was more than happy to come.
He said he wants to come back. In the fifth film, one of the characters is his nephew, and I was like, that's got to be setting up his return. He's the only one who possibly could have survived. They could have fucking retcon it. So if he comes back in the seventh one, great, fantastic, love it. If he doesn't, forgive me for not believing he's dead. That's if we even get the seventh one on DVD. because we're a bit uncertain after the sixth one. It's not a bad film, it's just the same thing over and over again. You'll realise that a lot if you've either seen them or you're going to be listening to these. Randy is quickly attacked once more by Billy because Randy just manages to recover. But Billy is suddenly shot by Gale when he attacks. The three survivors regroup and Randy points out the killer always comes back. Just as Billy sits up, so Sidney just puts one right in his fucking forehead with a gun. Sidney's father is rescued, and that morning Dewey is taken away, importantly alive, in an ambulance while Gale makes a report on the crime as the film comes. And there we go. Scream 1. Scream 1 of 6 as of yet. What are your general thoughts?
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the second one. I was like, we're on the first one. No, I really enjoyed it. As I say, it's a classic because Matthew, is it Matthew?
Matthew Lillard, yeah.
He was so into it, like he was in Scooby-Doo.
Every film that Matthew Lillard is in, we fucking love because he puts us all into it and clearly enjoys the materials he's given. And when he goes fucking mental in this, you can just tell he's having a great time. And I'm all for completely unhinged Matthew Lillard. Just because he's fucking mental and he's such a good actor. So yeah, this film, of course, is a classic. How can you not like it? It's a lot more, like, tame than you would... Well, there's a few kills that are quite brutal. Like, fucking Steve at the beginning being disemboweled, Casey being strung up by a tree. Tatum having a head crushed in the garage as well. Yeah, that's fucked. So yeah, best kill, worst kill.
The lady at the beginning, I've forgotten it.
Casey at the beginning for Amelia, just because she is bloody. However, I will change my... I was going to agree, but I think Tatum, just because her head is just... There's that brief shot of the dummy where it just goes splat, brutal. Worst kill goes to Kenny. I think we both agreed on that. He just has his throat slit. Yay. At least with Himbry, who got stabbed, at least they said his body was strung up on a flagpole. So at least there's a good image for your head. So yeah, that's Scream 1. I hope you enjoyed listening. It's my turn next week, but I will spoil the film. It'll be Scary Movie 4. Wrapping up the series for now. I just want it done at this point. I'm so sick of it. So yeah, Scary Movie 4 next week, and then it'll be... Well, Scary Movie 4 at the end of this week, I should say. Then it'll be Amelia's turn again. I don't know if it'll be Scream so soon. But we'll see. We'll see what she picks. In the meantime, I've been, of course, Purple Midnight 8, your host, joined by my wife, Amelia. Unofficial wife. Not illegal, but not legally certified wife. Do you want to make your plugs quick before we wrap up?
The Obsidian Nook and Pearl ASMR.
Yeah, you'll find her link in the description, along with all of our other social medias and other stuff you can find us on. But in the meantime, this has been the Nova Project, and we will see you in the next one.